We have with us Dr. Ap Radha Krishna, popularly known in the region as APR, who will help us time travel through the various astronomical discoveries in Indian history. Before we begin, I request Dr. APR sir to take the seat on the stage. Let me introduce you to APR sir, and let me tell you, it's an honor as he is my guru in the field of astronomy. Dr. Ap Radhakrishna is the HOD of Physics Department at St. Philomena's College, Puttur. He obtained his MSc in the year 1987 and his PhD in the year 1991, both from Mangaluru University. He is actively involved in teaching and research, and with his research papers being published in international and national journals. He's also presented papers in numerous national and international conferences as well. During his tenure as a teacher, he obtained several grants and fundings from the Government of India to pursue research in radiation physics and a project to set up a center of excellence at St. Philomena's College. Apart from regular teaching, writing science articles in Kannada and propagating science on various media is something APR is passionate about. You can see his articles commonly appearing in newspapers like Udayavani, Vijay Karnataka, and magazines like Sudha and Vigyan Aloka, etc. He has also published books on Vishwa Kiranagala Male Loka, Maneolagondu, Krishna Vivara, right? So, and other topics as well. He is a member of the National Center for Science Communicators, Association of Science Writers, and the Astronomical Society of India. He is also a member of the Indian Association for Physics Teachers. So I request Dr. APR to take us on this journey into the night sky as seen through history.
For all the young participants. First of all, I would like to thank Dr. K.V. Rao and also the other persons of the Pellicula Regional Science Center and my young friend Atul Bhatt for the nice introduction. Actually, this is in the third wave or the fourth wave. I don't remember. I had a heavy fever for the 4 or 5 days and extremely the weak. And at that time, just K.V. Rao has called me regarding the science festival, and he said that you have to give an informative interaction, I can say, or the lecture in the science festival. And I said first it is too difficult for me, and then probably he said that it gives you a tonic, and the tonic is nothing but the speaking with the young participants regarding the astronomy, one of the beautiful subject. Probably you are all, not only you, all the people are extremely passionate regarding the splendorous sky during the night time. I hope you are all watching the stars and then the constellation, and that is the in the nature, and we are exploring, and that is the branch of astronomy, the observational astronomy, and in Kannada we call this one as a Khagola Vijnana. And again in the astronomy there are the not only the observational, and more it is actually how the stars are born and the energy of the stars and then the whole universe itself. And that is why the astronomy sometimes is known as the mother of all sciences. All the branches of science is actually begin with the curious question regarding how all these are the born and how this has evolved. Okay. Now today's topic is regarding the history of astronomy in India. It is a glorious history, we can, and all of us, we know that it is certainly one of the most fascinating and the glorious history of in the India, which has given the immense contribution for the field of astronomy. Now, this is a German philosopher. Certainly, you may heard his name, the Max Muller. He says that whatever the sphere of the human mind you may select for your special study, whether it is be a language or it may be a religion or the mythology or the philosophy, whether it be laws of customs, primitive art of primitive science, everywhere you have to go to India. and he was a great admirer of India, and was a Sanskrit scholar, and has given the immense contribution for the philosophy. And he says that the India and the Indian civilization has given the immense contribution for the knowledge sphere, particularly in the field of the astronomy as well as the mathematics. Okay. Now, when we speak regarding the beginning of the knowledge, it may be the astronomy or any field of the branch of knowledge. Just let us imagine we go the time backward before the birth of Christ, not this 2000 years. Still, it is now like maybe more than 5000 years before the birth of Christ. ಕ್ರಿಸ್ತಪೂರ್ವದ ದಿನಗಳು ಅಂತ ನಾವು ಹೇಳ್ತೇವೆ. ಕ್ರಿಸ್ತಪೂರ್ವದ ದಿನಗಳಿಗೆ ನಾವು ಹೋದರೆ ಪ್ರಾಬೆಬಲಿ we can have the full of dense forest, and the night sky may be the better than the sky which we are now having, and there may be the pockets of the colonies where the people were living. It may be in the river side, or it may be in the side of the seashore. There may be the people, and they begin to have what we have the farming, and then the agriculture. And actually, during that time, the people might have observed the movement of the sun and the movement of the moon, the waxing and the waning. Now the various pattern of the waxing and the waning of the moon, and the variation of the stars and the movement of the stars, and they begin to correlate all this with the agriculture. Actually, the agriculture or the farming is now the source of the civilization. ಕೃಷಿ ಇಲ್ಲದೆ ಯಾವುದೂ ಇಲ್ಲ. ಕೃಷಿ ಇಡೀ ಸಮಾಜವನ್ನು ಸೃಷ್ಟಿಸ್ತದೆ. ಹಾಗಾಗಿ when you go to the time of before the birth of the Christ itself, 5000 or the 10,000 years back of that civilization, they begin to think of the hunting and the farming of the agriculture. There is a primitive way of their lifestyle, and the watching of the movement of the sun, the moon, the stars, the night sky were the recreation. And they certainly they are not having the recreation. The time they're not having the gadgets, the mobiles, and we cannot think of. And what is the recreation? Only the recreation is watching of the movement of the animals, and probably hunting of the animals, and then certainly seeing the night time, the beautiful sky which is now in front of them, and they are seeing, and slowly they begin to think regarding all this. That is actually the starting point of their realization or the accumulation of the knowledge of the nature. That is the beginning of what we call as the astronomy. And therefore they related the motion of the sun, moon, stars, and the constellations, and the variation of the season. Particularly when we say the farming system, or what we call as the agriculture, krishi anta ನಾವು ಹೇಳಿದ್ರೆ, they depend on the season. It may be the rainy season or the summer season, winter season, ಮಳೆಗಾಲ ಬರ್ತದೆ, ಚಳಿಗಾಲ ಬರ್ತದೆ. ಅದರ ಮೇಲೆ ಇಡೀ ಕೃಷಿ, ನಾನು ಕನ್ನಡವನ್ನು ಸೇರಿಸಿಕೊಂಡು ಹೋಗ್ತೇನೆ, ಕೃಷಿ ಅದರ ಮೇಲೆ ನಿಂತಿದೆ. ಆದ್ರಿಂದ they begin to relate the motion of these stars, the movement of the sun and the movement of the moon, and they relate with what we call as the seasonal variation, and that is the beginning of what we call the astronomy. Not only the astronomy, all the other branches of the science. And that is why we say that it was the beginning of the wonderful voyage of the knowledge. And the full of Indian astronomy. Actually, India is now considered as not it is now the boasting ourselves. ನಮ್ಮನ್ನೇ ನಾವು ಹೇಳಿಕೊಳ್ಳೋದಲ್ಲ, ಎಲ್ರಿಗೂ ಇರ್ತದೆ, ನಮ್ಮನ್ನೇ ನಾವು ಹೇಳಿಕೊಳ್ಳೋದು. Every country it is now having, not only India, all the countries. It may be the Spanish people, they say that the astronomy is, or we are the birth of the whole knowledge sphere. And each country, and we also say, but it is not the boasting of ourselves, it is now the historical science historians, they say that the India has given an immense contribution for the field of the science and the mathematics. Therefore, the Indian astronomy, it is now said as the different era, and the particularly the era which we call as the Vedic period. And this is now, as I said, it is now the before the birth of Christ. Krista purvada divasagalu anta helteve, adara hindina kala. And then we have the other period, sometime it is known as the Vedanga Jyotisha period, and then the Jain and the Buddhist period, and the classical treatise period. ಅಂದರೆ ನಾವು ಕನ್ನಡ ಶಾಸ್ತ್ರೀಯ ಸಿದ್ಧಾಂತ ನಾವು ಹೇಳ್ತೇವೆ. And then the post treatise period, and then the modern time. Therefore, before the birth of the Christ, there is not the 1500, even it is now more than that. It may be the 5000 years back and the 10,000 years back, and probably that is the beginning of the astronomy, the accumulation of the knowledge. All that it is now comes in this particular time period, what we call as the Vedic period. Adinda it is said that ಅನಾದಿಯಿಂದ ಸುಮಾರು ಕ್ರಿಸ್ತ ಪೂರ್ವ 1500 ವರ್ಷಗಳ ಹಿಂದೆ, that is now what we call as the Vedic period. Now when we say the Vedic period, all we know that there are how many Vedas? There are the 4 Veda, 4 ವೇದಗಳನ್ನು ನಾವು ಹೇಳ್ತೇವೆ. ಯಾವುದೆಲ್ಲ? ಋಗ್ವೇದ, ಯಜುರ್ವೇದ, ಸಾಮವೇದ ಮತ್ತು ಅಥರ್ವ ವೇದ ಅಂತ 4 ವೇದಗಳನ್ನು ನಾವು ಹೇಳ್ತೇವೆ. ದಿಸ್ ಇಸ್ ನೌ ನೋನ್ ಆಸ್ ದ Vedas, which is now the accumulation of the knowledge from the nature, and they collected the information. They, in their own way, try to interpret whatever the knowledge of the nature, and that is now become what we have the 4 Vedas. Okay. Now there are some of the archaeological evidences where the ancient Indians and the ancient civilization, they use to find out the movement of the sun, or it may be the movement of the moon, the moving of the moon, and then the stars. Therefore, we see the innumerable number of evidences for the ancient people tried their own ways to understand the celestial phenomenon. Now, particularly, I have given only the 2 pictures here. One is now from one minute. This is now from the region known as the Hyderabad, that is in actually the Bihar or the Jharkhand area, and then similarly the Kashmir, and particularly this one is now, it is said, from the Belagaum area, where there are the large number of the stones. The stones, it is not just 10 or 20, it is now more than the 500 stones which are now scattered in a large field in a particular pattern. And the science historians say that these structures are now planted in those civilizations. There is a very and the archaeological civilization says that it is now almost the 1500 years back of the birth of the Christ, and these structures, type of the structures, are scattered the different parts of the India, which is now used by the early civilization to understand what we say, the movement of the stars and the planets and so on. Therefore, the archaeological evidences itself indicate that the ancient people are try to get the lot of information regarding the nature itself. Okay. Now, particularly around the 1500 years back, I am saying it is before the birth of the Christ. And in the Vedas, it is the one particular shloka which says that the Yatashika Mayuranam Naganam Manyate Tata Tattvada Vedanga Jyotisha. Jyotisha Murdinam Sthitam. Uh, Too difficult to understand. I am not aware much regarding the Samskrita, certainly. Therefore, it's too difficult to understand. But that particular shloka which now says that this Navilina Shikeyante, Sarpada Hedeya Maniyante, Yalla Vedagalali, that is what we have the Vedanga Jyotisha which is now stands. We know that the peacock which is now having the shike, and then we have the cobra which we say that there is some sort of a diamond-like structure in the big cobra. Adrinda the Navilina Shikeyante Sarpada Hedeya Maniyante, and in all Vedas there is a presence of what we call as the Vedanga Jyotisha. Now, when we say the Vedanga Jyotisha, we slightly feel that this is now related to what we call as the Jyotisha. Jyotisha is now entirely different, and the Jyotisha is now the different. Jyotisha is now regarding the horoscope and saying what happens next, etc., etc. It is now comes under the purview of the Jyotisha. And the Jyotisha is now actually the pure, the type of the science, what we call as the astronomy. Therefore, here what they say regarding not the what we call as the Jyotisha, it is regarding the classical branch of the astronomy. Okay, as we said, the four Vedas are the oldest writings in any civilization. Not only in the India, it is now said that the four Vedas which is now made by the ancient the Indian civilization, it is now the oldest writings of the civilization. Any part of the world, these type of the writings were not present, all were in the later stages. Therefore, Veda discuss about now the importance of this Veda is, it may be the Rig Veda or it may be the Yajur Veda, it may be the Sama Veda. In these Vedas, it is said that about the sun, moon, and the earth, and the planets, the stars, in their own ways. And the Greek philosophers or the Europeans assumed that the earth is now some sort of the flat surface. And the Greek, the civilization, when we say the Greek civilization, it is now almost about the 1,000 years back of the birth of the Christ. Now, almost in that time and then the later stages, now all these civilizations said that the earth is now the flat. Always we also feel that earth is now the flat, because we will not see the earth is now the round. When we see the earth is now appears to be the round. Suppose if we are now go outside into the field and the earth is now, all the earth is now, it is now like a flat structure. Now, when we will get the idea that the earth is now, probably the earth is now like a sphere. Now we know that the earth is now a sphere. But the daily life experience, certainly it is now, we say that the earth is now appears to be flat surface. It is now appears to be flat. And all this is now the flat only. But when we experience the earth is now some sort of a sphere, ಎಲ್ಲಿ ನಮಗೆ ಅದು ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪೀರಿಯನ್ಸ್ ಆಗ್ಬೋದು? ಅರ್ಥ ಒಂದು ಗ್ಲೋಬಿನ ಹಾಗೆ ಕಾಣ್ತದೆ. ಎಲ್ಲಿ? The sky is exactly, the sky is, when we observe the sky, it is now look as the sphere. Or where we have to go for the seashore, and where at the end with the what we call as the horizon, and as we watch that horizon, and if the boat or the ship is now begin to come, its mast is now appears first, and it is now that type of the probably the observation made by those people, and they felt that the earth is now round. Therefore, in the various other writings, when the earth is now a perfect flat, samatala iddage flat ittu anta helidre, and these Vedic people, they said that the earth is now like the globe. Therefore, the Veda says that it is several lakh years ago. The earth is now also, the earth is now the born. And if you go to any other civilization, for example, the Greek or the other European civilization, all it is said that the earth has evolved something about 5,000 or 10,000 years ago. ನಾವೀಗ ಅರಿಸ್ಟಾಟಲನ ಕಾಲವನ್ನು ಗ್ರೀಕ್ ಕಾಲ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತೇವೆ. ಅರಿಸ್ಟಾಟಲ್, ಪ್ಲೇಟೋ, these people are also said that the earth has evolved something around 5,000 years ago, 10,000 years ago. I am not making they are now the inferior. They are the great philosophers. But their knowledge says that the earth probably has evolved about the 5,000 to 10,000 years ago. But the beauty of this the civilization, and they said that the Vedas, it is said that earth has evolved not the 10,000, it is now almost the million years ago, the lakhs years ago. How they got the knowledge, it is now the quite astonishing one. And the actual the age of the earth, we said that the 4.5 billion years ago, that is now the 450 crores ago. ಇವತ್ತು ಕೋಟಿ ವರ್ಷಗಳ ಹಿಂದೆ ಭೂಮಿ ಹುಟ್ಟಿತು ಅಂತ ನಾವು ಹೇಳುತ್ತೇವೆ. Now how we got that information, the earth is the age of about the 4.5 billion years ago, we have to go for the 20th century. And in the 20th century, once the radioactivity was discovered, and by using the activity, and that is the uranium and other dating technique, clearly says that the age of the earth is now about the 4.5 billion years ago, 450 crores years ago, earth has evolved, and probably that is now at the same time the sun has evolved, and that is now it goes. But the Vedic people, they understood this particular fact. That is now the quite astonishing one. And it is, the Veda says that it is now created by the Brahma and so on. That may be their own thinking. And we cannot correlate this one to, and we can say that all the things the Veda people know. Vedic people, they tried in their own way, and they said that the Veda created by the Brahma, and the Brahma is the creator of the universe, and then there is a Vishnu who is now the maintaining the order, and the Shiva for the destruction. And it is now the cyclic process, and it now goes on and goes on. Now the Yuga is now the cosmic time scale. This was introduced by that civilization, the Yuga system anteli. The day of time of the Brahma is equivalent to 4.32 billion years, or what we call as just now it is now the 432 crores of years. It is too difficult to imagine. Now it is now all become very trivial one. Now we trivial one because we have studied about the radioactivity. We are now the experimental proof, and we are say that what is the age of the earth, what is the age of the solar system, what may be the age of the whole universe itself. That is about the 15 billion years ago, the universe has evolved, starting with the small, what we call as the Big Bang, the whole universe has evolved, etc., etc. Now it we feel, but those people, the early civilization, they understood their own ways, and it is said that the time of Brahma is equivalent to 4.3 billion years, 432 crores of years, and the night time is again the 432, and the total years, that age span, they called as a kalpa. And in one kalpa they said that there are the 14 manus. Each kalpa is one of the probably to keep the whole system as the order. They imagine that there are the 14 manus starting from the first, second, and we are now the seventh one, and we according to the scriptures, and we are now in this particular period. Okay, then there are the 4 yuga, and the Krita Yuga, Treta Yuga, Dwapara Yuga, and we say that we are in the particular yuga. It is now the Kali Yuga. Okay, I am not going for the deeper one, and the Kali Yuga lasts about the 4 lakhs, 0.432 million years. It's unimaginable number of years. The 4.432 million years, 4 lakhs years, one Kali Yuga. Similarly, we have the other yugas, what we call as the Dwapara, Treta, and the Krita Yuga, and this goes on, and it is now the imagination or the thinking of those people in the Veda civilization. And the different yugas last in the ratio of, it is said that it is a ratio of 1:2:3:4, where the 1 is now, if you say for the Kali Yuga, what is the time period? It is now about the 4 lakh, and the 2 for the next one, Dwapara, almost it is now the 8 lakh, and then it is now the third one, it is now the Treta Yuga, and it is now says that it is now 3 into 4, we can say about the 12 lakhs, and then the one of the, according to the Veda, the Satya Yuga, all are the happy, and it is now the world is now the so beautiful, and all are speaking only the truth, and it is last for the maximum fortunate, and it is now about the fourth one, and this cycle is now goes on. Okay, it may be wrong or the right one, we don't know, and but their thinking is now the beautiful, that we only we can appreciate for the time being. Therefore, in essence, this world has evolved the billion years ago. The world has evolved billion years ago. That the universe is now, we said that the universe is now evolved about the 15 billion years ago. And those people, that is in the Veda period itself, the people, that civilization, they said that the universe might have evolved about the billion years ago. That is the large time scale. You see, even in the science also we have the time scale. One is now, we said that the microscopic, other one is now known as the macroscopic. We have the dimension, and we have the smallest dimension, and we have the biggest dimension. And even in the time also, we have the smallest one, and we have the biggest time scale. To think of the smallest one is now the extremely difficult. The same way, thinking of the biggest one is now also the extremely difficult one. And this particular, the cosmic time scale is now imagined by the earlier people. Now, the glimpses of the astronomy in the Veda or the Vedic period, that is 1500 years before the birth of the Christ. ಕ್ರಿಸ್ತಪೂರ್ವ 1500ಕ್ಕಿಂತ ಹಿಂದಿನ ಇದರಲ್ಲಿ ನಾವು ನೋಡಿದರೆ, there is a Rigveda discusses about the origin of the universe, how the universe has evolved. What we have the Vishnu and then Shiva, destruction, laya agudu, srishti agudu, ityadi, and they explain. Then the earth is now spherical in shape. The earth holds the moon, and in same fashion, something is now holds the earth to the space. For example, there is some sort of a tortoise, ದೊಡ್ಡ ಆಮೆ ಅಂತೇಳಿ, ಅದರ ಮೇಲೆ probably the earth is now present, or they imagine that there is a big type of the elephant on which the earth is standing, and so on. And the most important one, the concept of the orbital and the rotational motion of the moon and the time period. And then the 27 days, and each day starts with the particular star. Adanna ನಾವು ನಿತ್ಯ ನಕ್ಷತ್ರ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತೇವೆ. What are some nitya nakshatra? You may be knowing. Moon is now actually the orbital period of the moon and the rotational period of the moon is now, they were knowing about the 27 days. That means the moon is now completes the one rotation, its an axis is now 27 days. At the same time, the moon is now rotates around the earth in 27 days. Since it's the rotational period and the orbital period is now the same, always the one of the face of the moon is now the facing towards the earth. We are not able to see the other side because the rotational period and the time period and the orbital time period is now the same, 27 days. And they were knowing that the earth is now the orbiting, rotating. The earth is now rotating, the moon is now make the rotation. That is now how they could imagine this one. That is now due to the movement of stars probably. Therefore, the shift of the sun, similarly the shift of the sun rise towards the north and towards the south, which is now leading to what we call as the Uttarayana and Dakshinayana movement of the sun, and the naming of the classification of the various seasons and so on. Now, all these different things which are accumulated over the years. It is a period of a very long time. They accumulated, the knowledge has accumulated, and we have the Vedic period of astronomy. Now, particularly when all this knowledge is accumulated, and a name of a the person who is known as the Lagada. He has written a book which is now known as the Vedanga Jyotisha, which is now considered as the first science-related work published not only in India but in the whole of the world. And his time period is 12th to 13th century before the birth of the Christ. 12 ಮತ್ತು 13ನೇ ಶತಮಾನ ಕ್ರಿಸ್ತ ಪೂರ್ವ ದಿವಸದಲ್ಲಿ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದರೆ ಇಟ್ ಇಸ್ ನೌ one of the astonishing the information, because he has written the book which is now known as the Vedanga Jyotisha, which is a collection of the whatever the information available. Now, the most fascinating one regarding what we call as the speed of the light. Now we say that the speed of the light is how much? We say that the speed of the light is now 3 lakhs kilometer per second. And we always say it is now the maximum possible velocity of the light. And it is said in Rigveda, it is said that a particular shloka, it comes by in the science historians, when they say that this particular shloka, which says that if we calculate tatacha smaryate yojananam sahasram dve dve shate dvecha yojane ekena nimishardena kramamana namostute, ಎಷ್ಟು ಬೆಳಕಿನ ವೇಗ ಎಷ್ಟು ಅಂತೇಳಿ ಲೆಕ್ಕ ಹಾಕೋದು. And that they comes this in the nimisharda means about the 0.2 second, and travels about 2200 yojana, and 1 yojana comes out to be 14.5 kilometer, and if we calculate it comes out to be 3,19,000 kilometer. Now it is now 3 lakhs kilometer. Actually, when I read this particular one, I am actually I'm much regarding the not this type of the astronomy, but when I read this one, I felt something too difficult to believe. ನಮಗೆ ರೋಮಾಂಚನ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತೇವಲ್ಲ ಹಾಗೆ 3 ಲಕ್ಷ ಕಿಲೋಮೀಟರ್, ಹೌ ಇಟ್ ಇಸ್ ನಾವ್ ಪಾಸಿಬಲ್, ಹೌ ದೇ ಥಾಟ್ ದಿಸ್ ಪರ್ಟಿಕ್ಯುಲರ್ ಐಡಿಯಾ, ಇಟ್ ಇಸ್ ಟೂ ಡಿಫಿಕಲ್ಟ್ ಟು ಅಂಡರ್ಸ್ಟ್ಯಾಂಡ್. And strictly speaking, the measurement of the velocity itself, the speed of the itself, it is now done by the various people. For example, the Archimedes tried, he failed to measure the speed of the light, and then the great Galileo came and he tried to measure the speed of the light. You may be knowing that particular story. It is now having a lantern in with the Galileo, and his assistant has gone to the some distance of the hill top, and these people idea is that I will open the shutter of the lantern. Suddenly he will observe the light, and then how to measure the speed. They are that time there was not a mobile type of the system or the clock. That is why probably they thought taking the pulse rate itself, they tried to measure the speed of the light. It is now utterly failed. And then in the 16th century, 17th century, the people tried to measure the speed of the light, and ultimately in the 20th century got the Nobel Prize. This particular scientist got the Nobel Prize, that is Michelson, was considered as the light man. His entire life dedicated for the measurement of the speed of the light itself, and they could measure the speed of the light. Okay, I will go further. Sorry. Okay, now we come to the post-Vedic period. That is after 1500 BC to up to almost the birth of the Christ. In that period, some of the greatest astronomers of India came, and one is Aryabhata, and they similarly, sorry, 1 minute. Okay, the Aryabhata, he was considered as the greatest astronomer of not only in India, in the whole of the world, due to a particular reasons. And the Aryabhata born in, it is some sort of a historians say that he might have born in the place called Patna, and some says that he was from the southern part of India, somewhere around 476 AD he born, and then he published a particular book which is now known as the Aryabhatiya at the age of 23, and he studied astronomy in the university Nalanda University. Okay, sorry, I made it. Now the contribution of Aryabhata is that he clearly stated the Earth is rotating around in its own axis. When the Earth is rotating something which holds the different objects to the Earth. Early glimpse of the gravity, what we have the gravitational force said by Newton, said in the some primitive form by Aryabhata. Now the exact explanation for the solar and the lunar eclipse without saying anything about the Rahu and Ketu, how this the solar eclipse and the lunar eclipse happens, Surya Grahana Matte Chandra Grahana. We know that between the earth and then the sun, if the moon comes and then the sun is not appearing, and similarly we have if the between the sun and the earth, if the moon appears, the shadow is now fall on the earth and we will not able to see the sun. That is now the solar eclipse and the lunar eclipse, and it is now explained by Aryabhata. Then they introducing the concept of the various astronomical instruments and the inner planets, Venus and the Mercury, which we call as the inner planets, the Buddha Matte Shukra Graha, and the Aryabhata clearly stated that these planets are now orbiting around the earth. But the other outer planets, at that time they were known only the Jupiter, and then what we have the Mars, and then the Saturn, not the Uranus, Neptune and the Pluto. They were discovered in the later 17th and 18th century when the telescope came. But they were know that the Jupiter is a planet and the Guru Graha, and then the Mars is a planet, Mangala, ಅಥವಾ Angaraka, and then we have the Saturn, that is the Shani. These were the outer planets. The outer planet is now the orbiting, it is now around the sun, no, sorry, around the earth. The inner planets, which is now orbiting around the sun. Therefore, the inner planets, the Venus and the Mercury orbiting around the sun and including the sun, all the planets are now orbiting around the earth. Therefore, the Aryabhata was also has the concept that it's not the heliocentric theory, it is now the earth centering system. The concept of the ecliptic and the 12 zodiac constellation. What we have the 12 zodiac constellation, Mesha, Vrishabha, Mithuna, Karkataka, and up to the Meena, that is the 12th zodiac constellation, and that was the concept given by Aryabhata. Now the Aryabhata in his Aryabhatiyam says that as the fellow of the boat observer, the objects on the shore of the moving backwards, due to the moving earth, the stars appear to move, and this is due to the rotation of the earth. The relative velocity, the relative speed concept was given by Aryabhata. Now we say that the earth is now rotating. It has become a trivial thing. But how to say that the earth is now rotating? It's too difficult. How to demonstrate the earth is now make the rotation. And actually it was done by Leon Foucault. He suspended the huge pendulum. You can observe that particular system in this Pellicula Science Center itself. You have the huge pendulum is now suspended. That pendulum is now continuously make the oscillation. As we observe from the for the time it goes, it now makes its oscillation direction continuously changes. This change in the oscillation direction indicate that the earth is now make the rotation. Therefore, to show or to demonstrate the earth is now make the rotation, which was imagined by Aryabhata almost about the 2000 years ago. And now this particular system was developed. And therefore, in honor of the Aryabhata, we have the first satellite which was launched. It is named on Aryabhata, and similarly, the International Astronomical Union paid the tribute to Aryabhata, one of the moon crater, which is named in honor of Aryabhata. Now after Aryabhatta we have the Krishna Shakadali Baruvaga 505 and 587, and there is another the famous astronomer, his name is Varahamihira, one of the most prominent name in Indian astronomy. He is born in the historians say that near Ujjaini. He was a staunch critic of it, always there, Aryabhatta, and but this particular Varahamihira, it is said that he was a beginner of the what we call as the astrology, ಫಲಜ್ಯೋತಿಷ್ಯ ಅಂತ ನಾವು ಹೇಳ್ತೇವೆ. ನಮ್ಮ ಭವಿಷ್ಯವನ್ನು ಹೇಳುವಂಥದ್ದು ಫಲಜ್ಯೋತಿಷ್ಯ. I am not speaking regarding that ಫಲಜ್ಯೋತಿಷ್ಯ, but Varahamihira, he is a astronomer, but more than the astronomer, he was considered as the beginner of the what we call as the astrology, which is now due to the influence of the other civilization. He compiled the 5 treatises available at that time, that is before the Rigveda period, and all that different treatises were joined, and then he developed one particular Siddhanta, which is now known as the Pancha Siddhantika. Therefore, science historians say that the Varahamihira was the one of the first editor in the sense culmination of the different Siddhanta and the compiled, and he made a big Siddhanta, that is now Pancha Siddhantika. And the contribution to the mathematics is immense. That is even the Aryabhatta was a lot of contribution in the mathematics, the algebra, geometry, explained the eclipses by using the. But the problem of this Varahamihira, he first time said that there is something regarding the point where it is now the Rahu and Ketu, they are become the big demons, which is now going to swallow the moon or the earth system. And then he made a lot of rituals, etc., proposed by the Varahamihira. Therefore, he was also proponent of a lot of superstitious ideas. Okay. Then we have one of the greatest astronomer and the mathematician, the Bhaskara. There are the 2 Bhaskaras coming in our history, therefore Bhaskara 1 and the Bhaskara 2. 1 minute, what is the time? Okay. Bhaskara 1 was regarded as a great astronomer and mathematician. He was the follower of Aryabhatta, school of science, and Bhaskara was the contemporary of another great mathematician, Brahmagupta. His time period is about 600 to 680, probably 80 years he was lived and has given the contribution. And his 3 important work is now said as the Mahabhaskariya, and then the Laghu Bhaskariya, then a commentary on the other treatise on the Aryabhatiya Bhashyanta. Introduce the number system, the symbol for the 0, what we call as we are using a symbol that 0 is now due to the Bhaskara 1. That is why one of the satellite is now named in honor of the Bhaskara. ಹೇಗೆ ನಮಗೆ ಆರ್ಯಭಟ್ಟ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿ ಒಂದು ಉಪಗ್ರಹವನ್ನು ಹೇಳಿದ್ದು, ಅದೇ ರೀತಿ we are in honor of Bhaskara. That is the Bhaskara 1. And next we have almost in the same time period, we have the great astronomer and the mathematician, the Brahmagupta. Okay, I'll skip this one. There are some important contribution. One of his work is now known as the Brahmasputa Siddhanta. And Brahmagupta considered as more than the astronomer, he was his contribution to the field of mathematics. The number theory, geometry, and the primitive idea regarding the calculus. The calculus came in the 16th century, given by contemporary of Newton, Leibniz, and that particular ideas also given by Brahmagupta. Okay. This particular map indicating the ancient astronomers across the India. For example, we have the different astronomers in the India, Aryabhatta, and then probably this region. This region, that is in the southern region, it's now after about the 1000 years of the birth of the Christ. These are the people which are given the contribution almost now 2000 years ago. That is the time of the birth of the Christ. Okay. These are prominent Indian astronomers and their contribution. If we make a list of what are the contribution given by the various great astronomers and the mathematicians, we have the Aryabhatta. First comes, actually before the Aryabhatta, we have the astronomer Lagada. And then we have the Aryabhatta, 476 BC, and this is now the time we have the after the birth of the Christ. Krista Shakada Divasagalali anta ನಾವು ಹೇಳ್ತೇವೆ. The Latha Veda, then we have the Brahmagupta, Bhaskara 1, and then we have, for example, there is the astronomer known as the Vateshwara, and based on his, we have the Vateshwara Siddhanta. Brahmagupta, based on his the name, he made a Brahmagupta Siddhanta. Aryabhatta, Aryabhatiyam. In their name itself, they have pronounced their work. Okay. I will go further. These are the contributions. All these are the work is now available. See, these work, fortunately, they are now available. And in the whole period, how much probably have done by the people. It is just we can imagine. See, science and technology suddenly cannot come out. There are the people who are now creating the science. There are the Newton, or it may be the Archimedes, or it may be Kepler, or it may be Einstein, or the Curie, Raman, and so on. But they are not only the contributors. Certainly there are the immense number of the contributors. Now their work is not available. These, fortunately, some of the work is now available. The science historians have unearthed the jewel available in the history of civilization. Now just we come to the next, it is now comes to the astronomy in the 15th and 16th century. Now up to this time period, it is now said that the earth is now it's the center of the whole universe. That is why it is now said that the earth-centering system, all the stars, the sun, and they are now orbiting around the earth. But in the time of the dark age of the science, it is now said as the dark ages of the science, almost after the birth of the Christ up to what we have the 1600, almost that time span of 1500 years, it is now said as some sort of a dark ages of the science. You know that there are the lot of opposition when it is now proposed that the earth is not the center of the universe, and it is now the sun is now the center of the universe. Even there was a killing of the people like Bruno and then the Aristarchus, and it is now named as the dark ages of the science. The earth center idea of the Greeks and the Ptolemy was replaced by the sun center of the universe, which is by the Copernicus and the Johann Kepler. That is about the end of the 14th and the 15th century. And then came the Newton, who was said that brought the light. He said that the Newton's law of gravitation, and it is the starting point of the whole field of the science. Now, almost at the same time, there are some astronomers in the India, that is Mahadeva, Parameshwara, Panika, Sridhara, that in the list available. They got that idea and they said that the earth is not the center of the system and the sun is the center of the system. That is why they have proposed the Surya Siddhanta, they have written, and therefore most of the astronomers at that time were from the southern part of India. You see, the 16th century, one of the actually the revolutionary period of what we have the astronomy. That is now due to the invention of what we have the telescope. Now, until 16th century, now all the people were simply observing the stars. That is now become what we have the observational astronomy. But the eye is now having certainly the limitation. Now, in the 16th century, the science has given the new dimension to our observational power. One is now the invention of the telescope. Now, almost at the same time, the Leon Hawke, who invented the microscope. Both the microscope and the telescope, which is now almost in that same period, that is 100 years, it was invented. The microscope, which has now to observe the invisible world. Similarly, the telescope which is now observe the invisible world in the macroscopic level. And the modern astronomy begin with the invention of a new powerful instrument, that is a telescope. The Galileo, which is used the telescope and he observed the moons of the Jupiter, and then he observed more than 20 stars in the Pleiades cluster. Pleiades Kritika ಅಂತ ನಾವು ಹೇಳ್ತೇವೆ, one of the beautiful cluster. And in the night time, if you observe the Pleiades, and you are able to see about your eyes is now extremely good. Certainly it is good, and you will be able to observe about the 7 to 8 stars. And if you observe able to see 10 stars, it is the perfect the visibility. But if you observe the same Pleiades by using the telescope, you can observe more than the 20 to 30 stars. That is done by the Galileo. And Galileo observed the sun first, and then he could see the spots on the sun. Now ಅದನ್ನು sun spots ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತೇವೆ. He was first to say that the sun is now having a spots, and he first to say that the sun, the planets are now orbiting around the sun, and that is why the Galileo has a lot of opposition. You know that the history of science said that the Galileo was sent to the jail, etc. It goes, and this was the contribution of the Galileo, which has given the idea for the different astronomical instruments. Now, even in the ancient people, they used the different astronomical instruments. For example, Indians were well versed with the developing the astronomical instruments, not the telescope, but other astronomical instruments. For example, we have the instrument is known as the Yashti Yantra to measure the angle between the stars. Similarly, Chakra Yantra to measure the position of the planets and the stars. And then Chapa Yantra, semicircular machine to measure the diameter of the moon. And then the Gola Yantra, probably to measure the time. And the compilation of these different knowledge, some of the people, they have written the work that is now known as the Yantra Raja, Yantra Ratnavali, and so on. That gives the idea that those people are not inferior to us. They are trying their best to understand the nature itself by inventing all these different the astronomical instrument, but they were not able to invent what we have the call as the telescope. Okay, once the telescope has came, that is in the 16th century, then in the 17th and 18th century, the people have a lot of ideas by these different European people and so on, and that led to the building of the large type of the structures, and that is now known as the Jantar Mantar. For example, there is this particular, one minute. This Savai Jai Singh was a king of a small dynasty in the Rajasthan, Jaipur, where he, not only in the Jaipur, he in Delhi as well as the Kolkata, he developed this particular type of the big structures. They were known as the Jantar Mantar. Now, particularly I wish to bring your notice this Madam Ratnashri. She is no more, and COVID has snatched away this first wave, snatched away this great scientist. Why I am stressing this? Because she came here in the same podium. She has given the beautiful lecture on the Jantar Mantar and the contribution of the ancient astronomy. And at the time of the solar eclipse, Atul Bhatt is knowing, and she was so passionate regarding the propagation of the science and astronomy. She dedicated almost her life to study regarding this historical monument. This Jantar Mantar is not nowadays it is now used by the astronomers. It is now something like a monument. She was passionate to know how this Jantar Mantar can be used for the observation, a great astronomer. She did her the early studies in the Osmania University, and then the MSc from the Delhi University, PhD from the Caltech, that is in the United States, and came back, and then joined Tata Fundamental Research Institute, TFR, and then she became the director of the Delhi Planetarium, closely associated with the pellicula and as well as the astronomy activities. And this COVID has very cruel, and that snatched away this. Okay, I will go slightly fast. Atul says that the time is not much, and therefore probably you are also hungry. Hungry people always angry, and therefore, okay, I will go further. The modern astronomy, I will come to the end. Now I will come to the modern astronomy and astrophysics in India. I said that the Jantar Mantar period is now 17th or 18th century. After the 18th century, some of the observatories were set up in India, because the Indian also people were well known that we require big type of the telescope to get the lot of information, and that is why the British rule has infused the new ideas in the science, generally in the astronomy in particular. New observatories were established. For example, Madras Observatory in the 1787, Kodaikanal Observatory, Trivandrum Observatory. Almost in every 10 years, the different observatories were established across India. Okay, these are some of the research centers in astrophysics now across India. The lot of the research is now going on. The Indian contribution is now immense in the field of astronomy and astrophysics. Particularly, for example, Tata Fundamental Research Institute, IIA Bangalore, that is the Institute of Astronomy and Astrophysics, and then the Yuga, Inter-University Center for Astronomy, Astrophysics, NCR. Now, all these different, this is only the, just to get the feeling of what different institute available for the astronomy and astrophysics related research. Okay. Sorry. This is a world-renowned Indian astrophysicist. If we make a list, that is in the recent time, we have the Veni Bapu, and was a great astronomer who developed the big telescope, and this particular telescope was developed by this astronomer Veni Bapu, and it is known as the Bapu telescope. Okay. Then the world-renowned Indian astrophysicist, for example, Meghnad Saha. Each one we can give in the lengthy regarding the contribution of Meghnad Saha. Similarly, S.N. Bose, Likar was given the contribution for the whole of cosmology, and he is considered as the Prince of Stars, Nakshatragala Chakravarti ಅಂತ ನಾವು ಕರೀತೇವೆ. Who is none other than Nobel laureate S. Chandrasekhar. Okay, I am not touch upon his contribution, just to show that the Chakravarti. Okay. Then these are the great astrophysicists of time of. For example, we have C.V. Vishweshwar, who has given the idea of gravitational waves, and then the T. Padmanabhan, very recently passed away, one of the great astrophysicists, and his lectures was immense. He was used to write in both hands, the left and right hand he used to write, and he is a great astrophysicist, was given for the contribution for the field of astrophysics. Sanjeev Durandar and the they are the physicists who has given the for the gravitational waves. And you know that the gravitational waves were discovered very recently, and India has given the immense contribution. And these are the people who are very old one, but there is a very young one, and he is now the Ajit Parameshwaran, was a lot of work is now doing in the field of the gravitational waves. Okay. As I said, this is electromagnetic spectrum. Now we have almost in all one, including the light, then the X-ray astronomy, and we have the ultraviolet astronomy, and then we have the gamma ray astronomy, neutrino astronomy. In all these fields, we have the setup, and there are the lot of work is now going on, and there are the contribution from the Indian astrophysicists. For example, we have the Indian telescopes, and we have the ISRO. Backed with the ISRO, we have the lot of powerful telescopes. This is the setup is now coming in the Pune to detect the what we have the gravitational waves, and then this is a setup which is now going to observe the neutrinos in the field of the neutrino astronomy, and then the detection of the radio waves. Therefore, the Indian telescope in the forefront in the field of the astrophysics research. This already I have made it. These are the different astronomy research in India. And lastly, I just to end my lecture with a quotation, let me say here and now, my belief that there is no science so grand, so immensely fascinating as astronomy. I think a man who does not look at the sky, even through that most modest equipment, a pair of binocular, cannot be called educated person, because he missed the most wonderful and profound thing, that is the universe in which we live. Okay, thank you.